Hello, my name is Ron Kaufman. I'm the founder of the global education and consulting company called Upyour Service. And we have the pleasure today of interviewing the CEO of FIJI Airways, someone who over the years has also become a good friend, Mr. Andre Viljoen. Andre, pleasure to be with you.
Hello, Ron. Nice to be here. Thank you very much.
Now, you and I have known each other, Andre, for a number of years before you became CEO at FIJI Airways. And I wonder, since you're a person who says he likes to make history, give us a little bit of your history. What's some of the background of who you are?
So, Ron, I'm a chartered accountant, believe it or not, by training. And I used to be CFOs. And I quickly learned that if you stick your nose in enough stuff, you get some blood noses along the way, but you get to know businesses backwards. And before you know, you from CFO, you become CEO. So I had that experience at SA Express in South Africa, which is a feeder airline to the main carrier, South African Airways. I was CFO, became CEO. Then I went across to South African Airways, became CFO, then eventually CEO and president. And from there, I moved to an island, which is Mauritius. Yeah. And I was CFO and became CEO. And I'm now in Fiji. So I have a long history of being both CFOs and CEOs of airlines.
Yeah, which is not the same role.
No, very different.
Yeah.
But I learned very quickly that the most important asset in a business is the people. Mm-hmm. It's not the aircraft, it's the people. Mm-hmm. And if you inspire and motivate people, you have a very different business to one where you have a culture that you're just driving performance without caring for the people. So I always joke and say that when you look at emotional intelligence, or EQ as they call it, the four components are emotional control, empathy, engagement, and lastly, collaboration. When I did a test, there's a test you can do to see your levels of competency. It came back initially and said I was an emotional cripple.
Oh, dear.
And I then went and did emotions 101 and 102, and very quickly got myself to a level where I could inspire people.
That's inspiring to hear your own path with that.
And to me, that's one of the, I would call, key ingredients of my success as having moved from the CFO role to CEO in 4 airlines.
Beautiful, beautiful. Really bringing that emotional capability up in yourself so that you can engage others with that.
So, they say one of the big tests of leadership is, are you vulnerable?
Yeah.
Can you see your own weaknesses and work on them?
Yeah. Very nice, very nice. Well, thank you for the background on that. Let's go right to where you are today. Yeah, you're CEO of FIJI Airways. Fiji, the country, the beautiful island, and FIJI Airways are already known worldwide for being exotic, for having an exotic style of service. Yes. Why then did you see it necessary as CEO of the national airline to seek us out, to engage with Upyour Service, to work with you?
Ron, when I arrived there, I quickly realized that service was seen to be the sole responsibility of the frontliners in the company. Mm-hmm. This would be your cabin crew, your check-in staff, people that were interacting with, let's call it, the paying customer. And I've learned over the years that service stretches across the organization. Everybody is engaged in service. Mm-hmm. And if I wanted to create a culture of obsession to the customer, I needed to do it across the board.
So it's not just the front line that need to be obsessed.
And I know from previous experience that this is exactly the education that Upyour Service brings to an organization.
And that people don't routinely get in the course of their functional or technical training.
Now, I set a target when I joined to lift us from a 3-star Skytrax rated airline to 4-star. Why is that important? Our competitors flying to the country are rated 4-star.
Okay.
And when I experienced the service, my first thoughts were, my first flight on FIJI Airways, actually flying to Fiji for my interview, was, island airline, it's not going to be up there. I was absolutely amazed at the authentic, if I can call it, humility and warmth of the Fijians.
Okay.
And so when you get on board, you got this complete surprise of this of authenticism. But I still felt that I saw it in areas and other areas not, and it wasn't holistic.
Okay.
And that is why I thought, well, Upyour Service is the organization that can make a difference.
Can help you take that authenticism.
And if I could bring that right across the organization as a culture, we would be well on the path to being more than a 4-star airline.
Okay. Okay. Now, you at the very top
Yes.
can see what you see,
Yes.
say what you want to do, but you're not going to make things move without getting that whole leadership team aligned and in sync with you. How'd you do that?
So when I walked in, I was rambling on about Up Your Service.
Okay.
And I shared my experiences at Air Mauritius.
Where we worked before.
Where we worked before. And
And successfully went from a 3-star to a 4-star.
Some vagueness. They didn't quite get it.
Okay.
And I knew that the day that you come and launch the program, and Ron himself, with the inspiring way you do it and the examples you use, and I almost call it, knocking home the reality of where we're at and what doesn't work and how you can do it differently would make the difference. And I have to tell you that that's exactly what happened.
Good.
If you recall, you ran an intense workshop for the executive team.
Yes.
Then you did the wider leadership. So you did from 30 people to 100 people. Then you did an even wider group of 200. Then you did the stakeholders in town. You did our board. By the time you left, there was a step in everybody's walk that just said, this is what we need. This is what we're committing to. So I believe how I got the leadership on board is the launching, which you do.
Okay. Now, I was there personally and helped out with the launch with that. You'd certainly prepared the ground, so people knew something was going to happen. But since I was there, you've also had my colleague Linda come in, and she's been doing work with your workshop leaders, and you've had Sham come in. So tell me how to...
So the key to this is, I would call it the preparation we did with Sham even before you came.
Okay.
Where we sat back and said, you have a company vision, and a company set of strategic objectives, one of which is service quality. What does that actually mean? And what is your service vision as opposed to the company vision? And we sat down and said, well, what do we need to do in this company? We all need to take the next step up. And one of our values is working as one. If you look at the Fijian history and the culture of Fiji as a country, it is very community-based. It is working together. So working as one. Now, that's a very important, I would call it value, because it can mean working as a team or you individually.
Right.
So you can work as one,
Got it.
or you can work
Very
as
nice.
one together. So we use that value and link to it the words work as one to step up. And
Very
we
nice.
created that as our service vision. And Sham from your organization sat with us and we worked through a number of strategic objectives. We said, what will it take us to work as one to step up? Well, the first thing we realized, in some areas in the business, our basics weren't 100%.
Okay.
So we decided to call it perfecting the basics rather than fixing.
That's right.
So we set a strategic objective one of the service vision. Get the basics right. In other words, perfect the basics. The second is for us together to show service leadership. If everyone in the organization can show that service leadership, which means I take accountability, I can take and exercise responsibility and step up and make a difference, that we will all be showing service leadership. Then the next one we said is, if we're going to do any improvements, it has to be innovative, not just an ordinary improvement. We want to really be stepping out of the box.
Not just a small
No.
incremental, that's part of the
Substantial.
perfecting.
Then the other one we also said is, we have a culture, which is a culture of warmth and humility, but let's try and put some words around it that our people can identify with it. And we actually then came up care and passion. Because I always say, when you meet a Fijian and he says, Bula,
Yes, they do.
people at first say, wow.
Whoa, something's happening here.
But when he says it and you feel it, it's actually that care and passion they're showing. It's authentic. It's from the heart. So somebody said to me the other day, how would you describe the Fijian culture or humility or service? And I'd say, it's from the heart.
Yeah.
That's the difference. It's care and passion from the heart.
Authentically
Authentically.
from the heart.
And so one of the things we want to drive home with all the staff, no matter what you do, deliver it with that care and passion from the heart.
Beautiful.
And then lastly, we would not tolerate service providers or even our own staff who do not put their best efforts to deliver properly.
And so have you moved some people on?
Oh, so I have fired a lot of people.
Okay,
I
you
have
put it
fired
straight.
a lot of service providers. But today, those that work with us understand we are intolerable
Yeah.
when it comes to service delivery.
Got it.
And that has to be one of the core basics that you have to have if you want any program to succeed.
Right, right. And that's a key message you send into a culture.
Yes.
When you actually designate someone and say, you're no longer aligned with who we are becoming,
No.
and you need to move.
Sure.
Because everybody else who's been working with those people, they know. But to see you actually make the tough call and say people need to move on is as important as what you do with the people who
So
stay.
I replaced more than half of my leadership team
Okay.
who just, when you said, how did I get them aligned? After your launch, many were aligned, but one or two didn't quite get it and weren't prepared to work at it.
Grow.
Well, they're no longer with us.
Okay. Okay.
The team I have today are completely and absolutely committed.
So where are you now, and what's next?
All right, so we've achieved a lot on that journey. We've got all our staff, and that's one of the things I forgot to emphasize. What's been amazing in this is our staff, other than the frontliners. So out of the 1,300 people, and you take your frontliners or 600 of that, more than half have never had any form of involvement, engagement, and any focus on service. It's been get on, do
And
your
yet
job.
you've been in the service industry all these years.
Absolutely.
People thought we're just running an airline.
And they're not engaged at all. So putting them through the 2-day workshop where we educate and start creating a culture. So we've got that, they all understand clearly it's not a service process training.
Okay.
It's an
Very good.
education.
It's not scripting.
Yes.
It's not procedures.
Every day I walk in the corridors, a staff member will say to me, service, taking action to provide value to someone else. and they understand that.
And that opens the conversation for you.
And then we get talking about all the detail. Right. So every staff member, and there's by the end of October, all 1,300 staff, pilots, cleaners, you name it, in cross-functional groups have sat in a 2-day workshop and have been educated. And we've started forming a culture. So the one thing all my leadership understand, culture is formed through action.
Right.
So
Application.
the action and application is changing the culture, and we see the difference.
Okay.
That beautiful, from the heart, authentic care and passion now has a complete organization behind it delivering that.
Beautiful.
As opposed to just a few.
Now, you've talked about the education where people are learning fundamental principles, and then you're supporting them with various activities and parts of the organization. Are there any of those supportive activities you want to talk about, the building blocks?
Yes. So before I get to that, the other important feature of the workshops is not only do we now have everybody attend a workshop, which they've never had before. Now, the buzz in the corridor is, I actually mean something in this organization. I'm important. I have a voice. Because they've never had a voice before.
Nice.
In the workshop, as you know, we take a number of service transactions and we take all the perception points. We rate them in terms of the service levels, and then they engage to find solutions. The fact that we give them that opportunity and that they have a voice, and from that we've delivered a number of quick wins, has made an amazing difference to the morale and the inspiration in the business.
So in a relatively short period of time, coming up with an outstanding vision, work as one to step up, giving people that fundamental education that they never got before about what does it mean to be in service, inspiring them with that
and engaging them,
passion and care, the authenticity that's genuine Fijian, and then helping them put all that to work. So in the workshops, they learn these principles and they learn how to apply them. What about after the workshops? Are people continuously applying these at work?
So I think it's pretty much in keeping with the vision, which is working as one to take stepping up. We've ensured that at the end of every workshop, every participant prepares a step-up plan.
Personal
what
plan.
they're going to walk out, what they're going to walk out and do in their job tomorrow morning that is stepping up.
Got it.
It is signed off by their executive management.
Smart.
And it is monitored. And we've put a reward scheme around it. Every quarter, you have to have delivered your step-up plan and refresh it with a new one, and you get a reward of $300 in your bank account. If you don't have it, you don't only not get the reward, but you get what we call a parenting discussion. Because we've broken our meetings that we hold in a company under the 3 Ps. It's either a partnering meeting where we
Working together,
open, or it is a prescriptive meeting. So I've listened enough, and now I
I'm going to
them
tell
what's
you
gonna
what to
happen.
do, right?
Or it's a parenting meeting.
There's some coaching that needs to be done here.
And
yeah.
parenting meetings can be tough discussions.
Yes.
So if you don't deliver your step-up plan every quarter and show clear stepping up actions that you've taken, there's a very intense parenting meeting.
Okay.
And a few parenting meetings, if you still don't do it, you won't be in the organization.
Very good.
So we're very tough with that. And having those step-up plans is created a continuity, because now we're working as one, stepping up, or you're working together as stepping up.
You've spoken about a couple of times
Yes.
people moving out.
Yes.
Have you, as a culture, also found that you become a stronger magnet for people who want to move in?
Well, we just advertised 30 cabin crew positions, and we had 1,800 applicants. And,
That says quite a bit.
it is the organization to work for in the country. It
And
is-
you're leading the country right now.
And we're leading service, we're leading change. In fact, our competitors in the region, we've just, in 2 years, 18 months' time, when we get delivery of our new Boeings that we bought, we will have the youngest airline fleet in the world.
Beautiful. And the most passionate,
Yes.
not just cabin crew, but the entire airline.
And so our competitors around us are saying a monster has come into the arena.
A Fijian mermaid has come up from the sea, and she's going to fly.
Well, it's a Fijian monster that's come out of the sea. But we're very proud with what we've achieved, and
You
I'm
should
very
be.
proud with what the people have done. So when I say we move them out, I've really moved management and executives out, because they've got to lead it and set the pace. And we've seen a change. There's a transformation. It's a revolution in the company.
So let me ask you a closing question. You've been a CEO at multiple airlines and CFO. What you didn't mention is you're also a pilot. So you understand really the internal workings of the fabric.
I did a PPL right in the beginning, and at least no one can pull the wool over my eyes when we're talking.
Right.
on
When you say
pilot.
PPL, it's private pilot's license. Yeah.
That's
Okay.
right.
Good.
So at least I know how the controls
Good.
work.
And you know how the numbers work too from your CFO background. Now, if you're speaking to a CEO in any other organization, maybe not in the airline industry and certainly not in the Fijian island, what would you say? What is your parting comment to somebody who's facing a situation where the culture or the service of the organization is not what it needs to be? And the CEO has the responsibility of guiding this entire initiative forward.
Well, I would say that I always go back to my very first job. I joined an airline in South Africa called Comair, and the owner, Dave Novick, when I walked in, said, "So you're a chartered accountant, but can you sell? If you can't sell ice to an Eskimo, then you're no good to me." And he made me go and work for one of his subsidiaries that sells rubber stamps. And I spent a year going out there selling rubber stamps and getting rejection after rejection when I walked into the stationers. But I very quickly learned how important it is to provide service. And I changed selling stamps to selling service. And so if your organization isn't delivering service, you're not in the game. And I use another example. There's a gentleman in the States called Mr. Cohen, who has bought over 1,000 failed businesses and turned them around. And his studies of all these failed businesses have shown no common characteristics of success, but many common characteristics of failure. And when he was asked once to list them, one of the key ones that he listed was people don't understand why they're in business. They're in business to provide service, and it's quality service. So all I can say to every CEO is service and the people that deliver the service, which is everybody in the organization. Because whether you're delivering service to the paying customer or to what we call your service partner.
Internal.
Internally, you're providing service. And that is the cornerstone of the business. Because
Beautiful.
service generates the revenue, the top line.
That's right. That's right. And it generates the enthusiasm, the
Yes,
cultural
everything.
environment for everybody who comes to work there every day. You mentioned one interesting thing about that first job with the rubber stamp sales. You learn to handle rejection.
Yes.
And I imagine any CEO who comes in to disrupt, to improve, to transform the culture of an organization, as you've said from the beginning, not everyone's going to be on board. Some people are going to push back. I guess you have to anticipate that and be willing to address it.
Sure. So what he taught me, because I still remember his first comments were, everything you have done in your whole life to date and everything you will do in the future, you will be selling in some form. So when you hold your first girlfriend's hands, you're selling. Why are you an attractive option for her? When you go for your job interview, you're selling.
Yeah.
When you're trying to sell a project to your superior, you're selling. Everything you do is selling.
If you're the CEO and you're going to your leadership team or your whole
When
company,
you sit
you're
in
selling.
a board and you're dealing with a strategy, you're selling. So you will sell all the way through your life. And if you haven't learned how to sell, you're not going to succeed.
And then you coupled.
And he was so right. So what I did was I took selling stamps, which I can tell you is a boring, difficult,
Challenging.
impossible, challenging job, into a creative service.
Interesting.
I created art stamps, little pictures that you could put on a card with inks and embossing inks, and you could emboss it with a gun. And I created a whole business, and the normal stamps were ancillary. But because they were buying all the art stamps and loving it and couldn't wait to see me with what new
Yeah.
I had, they bought all
They
the
bought
other
everything
stuff.
else. And you
Exactly.
probably had a better margin on the fancy ones anyway.
A huge margin.
Very good. Very good. So ultimately selling, and what are you really selling? Service.
Service. And it all boils down to that action you're taking to provide value to someone else.
And the step up
and
to create more value.
more value. And in fact, service excellence is continuously stepping up.
Yep. Very good. Well, you know, you're bringing service excellence to FIJI Airways, and you're pioneering it for the nation of Fiji. You've
Yes.
done it repeatedly throughout the airline industry. And thanks for taking some time today to
So
share
on
with
that
others.
last point, what we've done in the country is we want to be the role model for
Please.
the country to step up. Because in Fiji, you get great service, and it's this warm, authentic care and passion. But we believe that if more people in the country did it, and we could be the role model leading it, we would step up Fiji.
So you're
even
leading
further.
at the airport, you're leading in town, you're leading with the
All
tourism
over.
industry,
Yes.
you're leading as an employer,
Correct.
and with national pride.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Proud to be Fijian.
Proud to be with you, Andre.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ron.